common topic within Buddhist circles, and that is living the spiritual life. And this is something that a lot of practitioners, after a little bit of study, they go to YouTube, and the first thing they do is they find all of these videos of these monks. And this is a page of a rather, I don't know, this is a California guy who decided that being a realtor and entrepreneur wasn't for him, so he ran off to Thailand and became a Thai forest monk. And he's made all of these videos here about his life as a monk. And so right off the bat, people see that he's in Thailand, he's wearing an orange robe, that he has shaved his head, and that he's living in these buildings in the forest, and oh, how life is so great and wonderful, and how blissed out he really is, and how he's just really taking to it, and how the community is supporting him. This is another one, Clear Mountain. It's I believe they're in Canada, and it's just a small group of practitioners that live way in the Canadian wilderness. And again, they're shaving their head, wearing the robes, and putting on the show, so to speak, of being a Buddhist monk. So the one guy that I was actually looking for is a young man who lives in another Canadian monastery, but it's really just a house, and he shaves his head and wears a robe, and again, he goes onto the internet and really talks about, how he's living the holy life and how he has embraced and found the virtues of Buddha. So, whereas, I appreciate those that really want to strive to take the Buddhist path and to renounce worldly ways and to find this thing called enlightenment and to end the circle of rebirth and to emancipate themselves from suffering. I do question how sincere they truly are, as into, is it a show? And are what they doing truly for the Buddha and the Dharma, or is it for themselves, for their own support and their own means and ways? Now, I'm not saying that this is the case with any of these people that I have shown you on the YouTube or that I'm talking about. I just say it's a question. So this is why I asked the question, is because one of the biggest things, or one of the biggest questions that I get asked from time to time is, how do you know if you are the one to live a religious life? How do you know? And the answer to that is, it's very simple, is that you start acting like you're living the religious life. That's the answer. I have met bhikkhus who are 10 years, 15, even 30 years as a bhikkhu. And they never really acted like bhikkhus. They acted like laymen. They would do things that laymen would do. They would behave in the way laymen would do. And they would do things like that. I've met bhikkhus. Bhikkhus, in my view, can be both male or female, by the way, not just males. I have run across this more times than I care to count. I have run across laymen who behave like bhikkhus. And they act like bhikkhus. And they think like bhikkhus. And they live like bhikkhus. But they're in the lay life. So what's all that about? And it's sort of, this goes back to another old saying is, how do you know when you found the right leader? And that is because a leader acts and performs in a way that a leader does. In other words, a leader leads. A leader acts like a leader. And this was kind of a very interesting aspect is when, it's like when people say, well, we want to, we want somebody to be promoted to manager. And they say, well, who can we do that? And they can say, well, all of these people are qualified, but this person over here is already acting like a manager. And 9 times out of 10, that's the person who gets promoted, is the one that's already doing the job. So when somebody says, well, how do I know if I'm going to be able to live the religious life? It's because you will already be living the religious life. You will have already come to a lot of critical conclusions about what I will call lay life or everyday life or worldly life that you have naturally found not only creates suffering and bad karma, but has become a revulsion. You naturally want to get away from it. You naturally want to cease doing those things because they create suffering, and in turn that creates karma with sentient beings. And that's when you know you are the right position to live the religious life. So now if you thought, oh, well, okay, I want to go live the religious life. I'm already thinking like a bhikkhu. I'm already acting like a bhikkhu. I think I need to go join a bhikkhu squad and go do bhikkhu things. Well, if you're living in Thailand, that might be possible. But, what if you're living in Wisconsin? What if you're living in Florida? You can go down and find a Theravada temple, and I'm sure they would be mildly amused that you showed up. But your aspects of actually joining them, maybe, but I would say maybe not, because you're not really joining the bhikkhu unit there. You're kind of engaging in their culture. You're kind of saying, well, I'm just going to go live in this cultural way, and I'm going to press upon myself this particular style and see what happens. Can't say one way or the other what will happen. However, it's not necessarily saying that you are not a bhikkhu at that point. Even if you ordain into a particular sect and you got bhikkhu buddies around you and you're going off and doing bhikkhu things, doesn't mean you're a bhikkhu, because that's all in the mind. If you've ever had the chance to watch a bhikkhu ceremony where the layman is inaugurated into the bhikkhuhood, or a Zen ordination, or anything like that, you notice one very striking aspect, and that is that nobody makes the bhikkhu the bhikkhu. During the ceremony, it's the person themselves that ordains themselves. That's it. They can say, oh, I wish to. They're asking an elder within the group for the permission to join them, which has nothing to do with being a bhikkhu, because you could be a bhikkhu all by yourself with no particular temple or group accepting you. And there's plenty of that in Thailand and Burma and Sri Lanka and all the other places. And we have lots of bhikkhus here in the United States that are alone, who don't have bhikkhu buddies, that do their own thing. So when a bhikkhu wants to stop being a bhikkhu, they don't have to go ask permission to step down like Catholic priests do. A Catholic priest who wants to stop being a priest actually has to ask permission from the Pope. But in Buddhism, a bhikkhu who wants to step away, all they have to do is just tell another bhikkhu, hey, I'm done, and sincerely mean it, and they're out. Well, it goes both ways. You can sincerely mean, hey, I'm doing the bhikkhu thing, like now. That's enough. And I've had many tenured bhikkhus tell me that that is actually enough, is for somebody to say, I'm going to go live like this, and that's that. Okay? I'm going to be a bhikkhu. That's that. You can't stop me. Okay, and I've had ajahns. That's a senior level or a senior monk within the Thai forest monastery system. Tell me that happens. That's enough. You don't need to go and be blessed by another priest or another bhikkhu. If you start living like a bhikkhu and acting like a bhikkhu, then you are a bhikkhu. That's just as simple as that. Now, a lot of people look at the bhikkhu through a cultural lens, and we know of two very big cultural lenses. That of the Thai Theravada, which also goes into Myanmar, formerly Burma, and I believe down into Sri Lanka, and in a lot of the South Asian countries. We know of that particular lens. We also know of the Tibetan Buddhism lens, which is the more the Mahayana aspect of it, and we see that within the Tibetan schools. There are 4 Tibetan schools, and a lot of them have American male and female monks, as they call them, but they're bhikkhus. And again, just like in anything else, I have met Tibetan bhikkhus that do not act like bhikkhus. They act like laymen. And I have met Tibetan laymen that act like bhikkhus. And it's one of the most frustrating and infuriating things when you run across it. And a lot of times, I just chalk it up to, well, the person's learning and they're trying, and maybe something will come of it, maybe something won't. And for those that are like, look, dude, I'm going to go live the holy life because it's just not possible for one, maybe they're not in the right location. 2, the sect that they are kind of interested in, or the teachings, or the whatever, they're just not doing bhikkhus. And I've run across a number of that. 3 is there's no room. I remember my first Zen teacher showing up at the Shasta Abbey Monastery, wanting to join the monastery, and he sat out there for a few days, and they just flat out came out and said, "Hey, look, we see that you're sincere and all, but we really just have no room. There's just no place to put you." And that's a lot of times what it is in America. We don't have thousands of temples that you could just go put somebody in and say, okay, go park yourself over there and we'll get to you. We just don't. So a lot of times, various Dharma groups also, maybe they started with bhikkhus, but then they stopped, or they decided that, we want to be a layman lineage, which means, I have no idea what that means. It means they're going to possibly just support bhikkhus elsewhere, or they're going to be like boosters, people that are going to fundraise for monasteries elsewhere. Sometimes they'll have a resident bhikkhu, and again, when I mean bhikkhus, I mean male or female or neither. It's irrelevant. Sometimes they'll have a visiting bhikkhu from Thailand or wherever, and there's no joining them. You can't show up and say, "Hey, I would like to wear a robe and shave my head too." and have them take you seriously, or have anybody there saying, okay, because most of the time they're just like, dude, we're booked up. We have nowhere to put you. We're struggling to support even what we have here. So what do you do when you're saying, well, I want to go live the holy life? What do I do? It's not that hard, and I'm going to tell you how to do it now. The first thing is you embrace the tenets of Buddhism, and in this particular case, it's the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. Within the tenets is the relinquishing of worldly ways. And all you have to do is look around you, and you can see those things that cause suffering in the laity. The laity or laymen are those people that live in the worldly ways. They may have aspirations one day to live the religious life, and they may support your quest to live the religious life, but they themselves are either not mentally able, not physically able, or just due to circumstances unable to live the religious life. So we say, okay, then you're making good karma for your next rebirth or the next time around. So, we appreciate your support as the laity, and we appreciate your wanting to support us, the bhikkhus that actually put forth the effort. So you cease doing those things. And what brings suffering in the laity life? Like I said, just look around. You look around your culture, well, okay, this brings suffering, and that brings suffering, and that brings suffering. So I renounce them. You're saying, well, I don't want to suffer if I'm going to miss watching TV shows or miss an episode. So you relinquish your TV watching and movie watching. You say, oh, well, I have to go to work and make all this money so I can pay for the place that I live in. It's like, really? Or is it that you're accustomed to living in such a place? Maybe if you change the way that you live. Maybe if you look around and say, well, what other alternatives do I have into such a way that I don't have to go work a big job and, in that life? Because are they really going to accept somebody who's a bhikkhu or living the religious life in a workplace? I'm venturing to guess not, unless it's, the owner of the company is a big supporter of bhikkhuism. So you're kind of in this bind where it's like, okay, well, I got bills to pay. How do I do that? There are ways. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you, though, that it is possible and there are ways. Sure, you might be giving up a house. You might be giving up a great place to live. And you might be giving up things. And you might have to go live in areas where, maybe they're not as nice as you once had it. Or they're more remote. Or it's a different city, or it's a different location. And maybe you have to give up your vehicle. Maybe you have to give up your cell phone. Maybe you have to give up your computer. Maybe you have to really look at all the things that are causing you all of the suffering that is constantly screaming at you, standing in the way of you living the religious life. I know a lot of people who are bhikkhus, though they've never ordained with any group. They never... They don't wear a costume. They don't have ornaments and vestiges of that particular office. They don't have students. They don't have a church. They don't have a temple. They're kind of like me, in where I view that my temple is wherever I am at. That the teacher is always in front of you, always around you, and always there. And that the Buddha and the Dharma is all that you need. You don't need anything else. And the Buddha nature was always flowing, and the Buddha's teachings are always there. Even if you don't have books or Kindles or devices that can play recordings, just look around you. You'll see the Buddha Dharma and the teachings screaming at you because you've opened up your mind. Once you have decided that this is it, I want to live the religious life, nothing can stop you.